Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going to do a deep dive into the future of X, formerly known as Twitter. We've got some really interesting articles from Social Media Today and the PA News Agency, and they've got some pretty different perspectives on what's happening over there. One suggesting that X might be failing, and the other one talking about its potential resilience. So, should be a good one. Did you know that X is now technically classified as a news app?
Interesting.
Yeah, we'll get into all of that. But first, let's take a look at some data from the Social Media Today article. It paints a somewhat concerning picture.
Right. So the article highlights data from Similarweb, and it shows there's been a pretty sharp decline in daily active users on X, especially in the US and the UK. We're talking about a fifth in the US and over a third in the UK, just since last summer, which is pretty substantial.
Wow, a third of users in the UK. That's a huge chunk. What's causing this mass exodus? I mean, sure, social media platforms ebb and flow, but this seems significant.
Yeah, it does. Well, the article suggests that some of Elon Musk's decisions and statements might be a major factor. Remember his Civil War comment in response to the UK riots? That, along with his more overt political stances, seems to have alienated some users, particularly in the UK.
That's interesting. I would think aligning with a specific political ideology would actually draw in users who share those views, but it seems to be having the opposite effect in this case. Why do you think that is? Is it the nature of those specific political statements, or is there something more at play?
Well, that's a really great question. And, I think it kind of speaks to a larger point about the psychology of social media users. While people may gravitate towards platforms that align with their beliefs, they also value diversity of thought and a sense of community. And when a platform becomes too closely associated with one particular ideology, it can create an environment that feels very exclusionary, or even hostile to those who don't share those views. So people start to feel like they don't belong, and they look for other spaces where they feel more welcome, and they can engage in more open dialogue.
So it's not just about attracting like-minded individuals. It's about fostering an environment where diverse perspectives can coexist. Which makes you wonder if Musk considered this when he started to use X as a platform for his personal political views.
It's tough to say what his intentions were, but the data suggests that this move might be backfiring. And it's not just external data. The article also mentions that X's own internal reports are showing a 5% decline in EU users in the first half of this year.
So even with Musk boasting about record-breaking usage, the numbers from both independent sources and X itself tell a very different story. It feels like we're getting two versions of reality.
Exactly. And that leads us to another really intriguing point from the Social Media Today article about how Musk has been promoting this idea of user seconds as a key metric for X's success. He claims that it's a better indicator of engagement than traditional metrics like daily active users.
User seconds. What does that even mean? Is he talking about how much time people spend on the platform? If so, why not just stick with the standard measurements that everybody else is using?
Well, on the surface, it sounds pretty straightforward, like the total amount of time users spend on the platform. But the problem is that X is not very transparent about how they're calculating these user seconds. They keep changing the parameters. So it's almost impossible to compare figures over time or against industry standards.
So essentially, he's created this new metric. That sounds impressive. But it's really difficult to verify or contextualize. It makes you wonder if he's deliberately trying to obscure the actual situation.
Yeah. It definitely raises some questions about the reliability and transparency of the data being presented. This lack of transparency makes it very difficult to really understand what's happening on X, and whether it's genuinely thriving or just masking a decline.
It's almost like he's trying to control the narrative by creating his own reality. But the reality is that while Musk might be trying to paint this rosy picture, other platforms are capitalizing on all the uncertainty and discontent surrounding X.
Absolutely. And the PA News Agency article we have here highlights a really fascinating trend, the rise of Bluesky, which is this decentralized social media platform that's attracting a lot of those disenchanted X users.
Bluesky? Huh. I've heard whispers about it, but haven't really dug in.
Yeah.
What is it about this platform that's pulling people away from X? Is it just a matter of the enemy of my enemy is my friend? Or is there something more substantial happening here?
Well, it seems to be a combination of factors. The article mentions that there was a pretty significant surge in Bluesky signups, particularly after the recent U.S. election, and Musk's continued vocal support for Trump. It seems like many users are seeking out alternatives that align more with their values and that offer a different kind of online experience.
So it's not just about fleeing X, it's about finding a platform that feels more aligned with their personal beliefs. and offers a community that resonates with them. It's like they're voting with their feet, so to speak.
Exactly. And it's not just everyday users either. Bluesky is attracting some pretty high-profile figures as well. The article mentions Jamie Lee Curtis and Chris Packham as examples. They're prominent individuals who have publicly left X and are now quite active on Bluesky.
Wow, so it's not just a fringe movement. It's gaining traction with some pretty influential people.
Yeah.
That speaks volumes about the shift that's happening. What is it about Bluesky that's so appealing? What are they doing differently?
Well, the article highlights a few key features that seem to be resonating with users. One major difference is the emphasis on moderation and user control. Bluesky is giving users a lot more agency over their experience, allowing them to filter out content they don't want to see, and even choose the algorithms that shape their feeds.
That's a stark contrast to X, where it feels like the algorithm and the platform's owner have way more control than the users themselves. It's like the Wild West out there, and it can be a pretty chaotic and unpleasant experience.
Right. And that sense of chaos is exactly what's driving people towards platforms like Bluesky, where they feel like they have more control over their online environment. Another key difference is Bluesky's approach to verification. Remember how much controversy X's paid blue tick system generated?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It felt like the whole system was designed to create chaos and sow distrust. It seemed like anyone could buy a blue check mark. Regardless of whether they were a legitimate source of information, it really undermined the whole concept of verification.
Exactly. So Bluesky is taking a different approach. They're exploring the use of domain names as handles for verification. This means journalists, public figures, and organizations can potentially leverage their existing web presence to establish authenticity.
That makes so much more sense. It's a system that's rooted in pre-existing structures.
Yeah.
And it offers a much more reliable way to verify identity. It's not perfect, but it's a step in the right direction.
Right. It's a more grounded approach that aligns with how we already establish trust and authority online. And then, of course, there's the issue of toxicity, something that's plagued X for years. Bluesky's very vocal about its anti-toxicity features, giving users tools to limit unwanted interactions and detach their posts from negative or abusive quote posts.
So they're really prioritizing a healthier and more constructive online environment. It's like they're saying, we hear you, and we're trying to create a space where you can engage in meaningful conversations without fear of harassment or abuse.
That's a great way to put it. And what's even more interesting is that this emphasis on decentralization, user control, and a more positive online experience actually aligns with the original vision of Twitter before it became X. Bluesky actually spun out of Twitter itself, with former CEO Jack Dorsey championing the idea of a more open and decentralized social media landscape.
So in a way, Bluesky is a return to the roots as Twitter, like a course correction that addresses many of the issues that have plagued X under Musk's leadership.
That's a really insightful observation, and it highlights a crucial question. Are we witnessing a fundamental shift in the social media landscape? A move away from those centralized top-down platforms towards more distributed, user-driven spaces?
That's a huge question, and it has implications for the future of online communication and community building. But let's circle back to X. Where does it go from here? Can it recover from this decline, or is it destined to become a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked ego and short-sighted decision-making?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The Social Media Today article suggests that X might be at a crossroads. The declining user base, the questionable metrics, and the rise of competitors all paint a picture of a platform that is struggling to find its footing.
And I'm being honest, a lot of that struggle seems to stem from Elon Musk himself.
Uh.
His unpredictable behavior, his political pronouncements, and his seemingly impulsive decisions all seem to be driving users away. It's like he's become a liability to his own platform.
Yeah, it's definitely a factor that can't be ignored. The article even speculates that the outcome of the recent U.S. election might influence the future of X. You know, Musk was obviously a very vocal supporter of Trump, and some believe that if his candidate had won, it might have emboldened him to double down on his current strategy.
But with Trump's loss, the article suggests that Musk might be forced to reassess his approach. It even raises the possibility that X might face a pretty drastic outcome, like being shut down or sold off. It's like the platform itself is hanging in the balance, and the next few months will be critical in determining its fate.
It's definitely a pivotal moment for X, but I think it's also a pivotal moment for us as social media users. You know, we have more choices than ever before, and we have a responsibility to be discerning consumers of information and active participants in shaping the online spaces we inhabit.
Yeah, that's such an important point. We can't just passively accept whatever is presented to us. We need to be critical thinkers. We need to question the data and the narratives being pushed. And we need to make informed decisions about where we spend our time and attention online. It feels like we're at a real turning point, not just for X, but for social media as a whole. Are we moving towards a more fragmented landscape, with all these specialized platforms catering to very niche interests and ideologies? Or will the established giants, adapt and evolve to meet those changing needs and expectations of users?
It's really hard to say for certain, but I think we're definitely seeing a clear trend toward a greater user empowerment and a demand for more transparency and control. Platforms that ignore these demands do so at their own peril, I think.
Yeah, it's almost like the power dynamic is shifting. For so long, social media companies have dictated the terms of engagement. But now users are saying we're not just passive consumers anymore. We want a voice in shaping the platforms we use.
Exactly. And that's a really exciting prospect. It opens up all these possibilities for more diverse and innovative online spaces that actually serve the needs of the users.
So it all kind of boils down to this. Is X, under Elon Musk's leadership, capable of adapting to this changing landscape? Can it regain the trust of users and offer a compelling alternative to the emerging competition? Or is it destined to become a relic of a bygone era?
Only time will tell. But one thing is certain, the social media landscape is in flux, and we're all along for the ride.
That's a great point to end on. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the decline of X and the rise of Bluesky to the shifting power dynamics between platforms and users. Hopefully this deep dive has given you some food for thought, and maybe even inspired you to be a more mindful and engaged participant in the ever-evolving world of social media. Until next time, keep those critical thinking caps on and stay curious.